Hello, this is Greg Allison with Green Greg's Garden and Worm Farm, coming to you on the 26th of August, 2020. There's a lot going on in the world right now. Our world is gone nuts. And, you know, hopefully we can bring some peace to this conversation and get some perspective on it. But we need to know that we've got to prepare and be ready for the things that's going on around us. So I brought a guest to you today who's been on my channel before, Stacy Zivicki. And Stacy has got her own YouTube channel, and you need to check it out. It's called Sustainable Stewards. And Stacy lives in Wisconsin. She's there and got family and friends who work and are involved in Kenosha. Kenosha, okay, now I'm not
there you go.
That tongue. I don't have that tongue, so hang on till I acquire this, but I'm a Southern boy. So there is a lot going on there, and she's got some inside track on it, being where she's at, she's got family. So I thought we would just have a look at what's happening there from the perspective of someone who's living there, someone who's a friend of this channel, who's been on this channel. And, you know, we have a lot of common subscribers between us. So I had gotten a message from Stacy telling me, is this just started to go down, that there were like carloads of people coming in town. They had their tags blacked off, taped up, or taken off.
Yeah.
What's happening, Stacy? So there are just carloads of people coming in?
Well, yeah, there's carloads of people coming in, and I'll tell you how this all started, Greg. This started a few days ago when a gentleman went to an apartment complex. He had the keys to an apartment, business, what have you, that he wasn't supposed to have. So a woman called the police to get them because he was trespassing. All right. Police arrived. Video of the initial engagement just came out today that wasn't available a few days ago before all hell broke loose. Police engaged him, wanted to know why he was, you know, doing their police thing. And there was a altercation on the passenger side of the car, which was revealed today. The police actually did try to take him down to the ground, and they did, but he got away. And what the national media is not showing you is as he walks around the front of the vehicle, you could see his hand like this, and you can see a black curved implement or tool, okay? He had an actual fighting knife in his hand, one that's curved out, so when you punch, it slices, okay? So he goes around the front of the car, opens his driver's side door, and he goes in to grab for something while the police are right behind him, and the police shoot him in the back 7 times. Of course, all heck broke loose in the calls about police brutality and, you know, how could they do this and blah, blah. And I even got into some personal conversations with some friends from my area that believe that the police officers should have been trained to take him down, which they did initially. But then, you know, if they're trained, they don't need to be shooting anybody in the back that has a knife. You know, if he had a knife, so what? And I pose this question to these people is, all right, the police are trained. Somebody's got a knife, who, by the way, has got a record of violence. He, for years, had domestic abuse calls on him. A matter of months ago, he got convicted of sexual assault. So this man is already, you know, a dangerous man, and I'm sure the cops knew this because the names were given, you know, from the beginning. So we're asking our police officers to physically take down an adult man that is very fit, that has a knife in their hand. That's what we're asking them to do now, is get cut up to save the life of the criminal. I'm not asking that of my police officers. If somebody has a deadly weapon, and a knife is a deadly weapon, as you know, Greg, I expect my police officers not only to protect the community, but to protect their personal lives as well. Exactly. A lot of damage.
In close quarters, this is more dangerous than a pistol.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And keep in mind, this man had been tased. They tased him like 4 or 5 times, and it didn't faze him. It didn't faze him. So there's another aspect of that. Was he on drugs? I don't know, but you know as well as I do, when people are hopped up on drugs, they're like Superman, you know, so you can't be expecting these cops to engage these people hand to hand. So when he went in and he reached in the car, he may have been reaching for a gun. The information isn't out on that. They shot him in the back.
So let me ask. The narrative is that he was getting in the car to get away, to drive away.
No.
Did it look more like he was reaching in to grab something, or was he actually getting in the car? I mean, was the seat in the seat? Did he put his rear end in the seat?
When you get in the car, you lift up and you put your rear end. No, he bent down underneath the window and he was reaching for something.
Okay. That's a big difference. That's a huge difference.
Yeah.
If you're reaching over, then you're reaching for something. You're not. If you're trying to get away, your rear end is going in the seat.
Right.
So that's a big difference.
On my Facebook pages, you know, locally people talk on Facebook pages, and there were some people from Kenosha, and I can't confirm this, just letting you know, but there were people that were saying that he was grabbing for a shotgun. My thought process is the police are not going to shoot somebody in the back 7 times if he was trying to just drive away.
Not normally, and I hope it wouldn't. And, you know, shooting someone in the back is heinous, in my opinion, unless you really know something.
Right.
And I really still think they should have at least waited till he started to turn around and saw what he had. So I do think that they shouldn't have shot him in that manner.
Another problem is his kids were in the vehicle.
That's a huge problem.
That's a huge problem.
That's a huge problem. And I saw the video I saw, there was kids standing around outside too. And I think that is very, very unfortunate that all these kids witnessed to something like that. Kids shouldn't have to. His own kids were in the vehicle. That's all.
Yeah. And of course, Greg,
if he was a sociopath, which a lot of criminals are, he wouldn't have thought about his kids. He's really just about himself. That's the downside.
He would have got on his face, and he would have, when his kids are there, you know, if this was a normal guy, he would have gone on his face and said, "My kids are in the vehicle. Please don't harm me or them." He would have submitted. That's what normal people would do, in my opinion.
Yeah, I wouldn't be trying to pick a fight around my kids. In fact, I've had somebody recently try to pick a fight with me around some other young people, and they weren't even my kids. And it's like, you know, just wait. Yeah.
Right.
I said, right. We don't do, you know, talk like this around these kids.
Right.
You know, they weren't my kids, but
kids are precious. They need to be protected.
Well, these were actually 20-something-year-olds.
Oh, sure.
Still relatively young by my standards, so
they
didn't need to hear. In fact, strangers don't need to hear certain things, and you know.
Right.
You know, my training in the military was, if you have a difference with somebody, you don't pick them out, call them out in front of other people. That's what we call uncalled for, and that's a Southern term, of course. But it was the leadership training that we had when I went through the Army, and my primary sergeant and teacher instructor, who I really thought the world of, was Sergeant Spivey, a black man. He taught me a lot about understanding other people's worldviews. And you might have saw my video about rose-colored glasses. I really got that from him. He was a brilliant man and a good instructor. But, you know, he really taught me that, you know, and I knew this to some degree, but he really talked about people's worldviews, how everybody has a worldview, and everyone's individually different with a worldview. And they take information in as they see things, and that interpretation is biased by the worldview they have. That they reinforce what everything they see reinforces what they already believe. It takes a paradigm shift to change that. And so today what we have is a very most unfortunate thing in our society is polarized, it's divided, and the worldviews are cast against each other. That there's the narrative out there that a lot of people only have what they have because of white privilege. That's the only reason they're ahead. It's the only reason they have anything. So in their mind, it's okay to go in and destroy people's lives. They don't understand how hard they work to get that. They don't understand that you are literally destroying the lives of people who are innocent. Because you're mad about something. Because what does the business owner, what does a car dealer, I saw a car dealership on fire. What does the car dealer have to do with that cop? Right or wrong, whatever that cop did. What does the car dealer have to do? What does the restaurant owner have to do with it? I was always taught 2 wrongs do not make a right.
That's right.
And furthermore, you can't fight hatred with more hatred. And if you perceive that the problem in the world is hatred, that you're being discriminated against, and if you're trying to fight it with hatred, all you're going to do is fan the flames and make it worse. So if you're on the other side and you feel like you've been discriminated against and your rights are being trampled on. There are ways, and you may not believe this, but there are ways. There are a lot of people on the side, each side, who would like to understand the other side and reach out. And that's why rose-colored video, rose-colored glasses video. But you have the right to petition. You have the freedom of speech. You have the freedom of assembly. Any group has a right to go out and assemble and protest the injustice they perceive, be it police brutality. And there is police brutality. We know this happens. We know there's bad cops. But there's good and bad in everything. You know, you get enough people, you're going to have good people and bad people all over the spectrum. Cops are no exception, and they're going to do things that aren't good at times. And this may have been one of those times. I wasn't there. I can't say. But you know, you're throwing up some things that isn't, you know, what the narrative, it doesn't fit the narrative most people have heard. And so there may be other circumstances, but people have made snap judgments and gone around and decided to destroy the lives of hundreds and thousands of people because they're mad about something. Now, maybe they have a right to be mad, but they don't have the right to destroy other people's lives. That's going too far.
And you know, the oxymoron or the dichotomy in this, the you know, foolishness in this, Greg, is we have one gentleman in history we can look to that was an absolute depiction and the epitome of evil and fascism, and that was Hitler. And what did Hitler do? Right? He was upset about the fact that Germany was blockaded from selling their goods for many years, and at one point Germany was starving to death, right? Because
it was.
The world, and he blamed, and I'm just going to be careful what I say, because if you say certain words, no matter if it's pro or against or whatever, they'll shut you down. So he blamed a certain six million group, jewelry, some people call it. All right, so he blamed this group of people. And instead of blaming, right, and seeking justice for the few countries or the few people that put Germany in such grievous poverty, do you know that there was people that laid their children in the streets to die because they were starving? I mean, Germany was in a bad sort.
The Weimar Republic was a disaster, and all this happened because, well, there was always tensions. Germany was a rising power. And there were tensions between Germany and France and Britain and Russia. Germany had a population that was, you know, very productive, hardworking people. And they were highly educated, highest educated populaces in the world. So they had a lot of potential, and they felt like they had been stepped on and denied. And so a lot of this had to do with the WW1. And when they lost, they were basically forbidden from doing all kinds of things. So the treaty left them in utter poverty. It did. You had the Weimar Republic inflation, where the government tried to print its way into prosperity with money, and that didn't work. And we're doing that today. The only reason we've got away with so far is the dollar is the world's reserve currency, but that's only going to work so much. I'm afraid that we have pushed that to its limit now. And we're about to see that the consequences as dire. The German country was much smaller. They didn't have the margin that we have. Their money wasn't the world reserve currency. So they couldn't get away with as much, neither could Zimbabwe and a lot of other countries with that crazy inflation. But that's where we're heading. The government doesn't have an infinite well. They can't just give you everything forever and the money really be worth something. When you've got more dollars chasing fewer goods, you're going to get something called inflation. Or if money disappears, you get something called depression. We today in our economy have both depressionary and inflationary forces fighting each other as job losses take place and things like that. So that's called stagflation, and that first got noticed during the Carter administration.
So there was a lot of reasons Germany was failing, but what did Hitler do? He pointed the finger at one group of people. Or a couple. He went after the Polish a lot too, but he pointed that finger at those people, put them in camps. There was a lot of things that happened. And I see this movement today. They're doing the same thing, Greg. There's issues happening, and they're pointing the finger, and they're causing everybody to pay for the mistakes of a few. It's not right.
that's the easy thing to do.
Right.
Why. Let me tell you why. That is a typical power ploy that has been played throughout all time. And any student of history knows that you can play that kind of card and you can make a killing and gain all kind of political power. It's their fault. You're the greatest people in the world. You are great. You are wonderful. All your problems are because of this little group. Now, he didn't blame the British. He didn't blame the French. He blamed a smaller group that he can control, marginalize. That's a coward's way of doing it. But that's typically what happens. Or if you blame somebody that's already self-loathing and feeling guilty because maybe they've done something in the past or they've been convinced of that, then you've got better to work on. And that's kind of the case in our country. You know, we have kind of a self-loathing among a lot of people, you know, a lot of white people because they feel guilty over some of the things that's happened. You know, I think we've got the greatest country in the world. We have the traditions that have created the greatest prosperity ever known to mankind, the freedoms. But we've taught ourselves that, you know, we look at the negative side of that, and, you know, we're perfect. Nobody is. We're human beings. And our ancestors had a lot of good ideas, but they also didn't do everything perfectly. But show me anywhere that it's been done better. Show me a case that really is truly better. There's all kind of problems in all these other countries, and a lot of that's ignored. It's swept under the rug. You know, there's a reason that we went in and fought the Barnaby pirates, you know, at the shores of Tripoli. Because these guys were capturing ships and taking people hostage. People in the Mediterranean wouldn't even live close to the coast because they knew those guys would capture them and put them in slavery. We're talking Europeans. They captured them, put them in slavery. They were also, you know, the peoples that were trading slaves to America. So they were the kingpins, you know, the people of that ilk were the kingpins of the slave trade at the time. Now, I'm not picking on the religion. That's just what that group was doing. There's good people. I'm going to repeat this, and it's worth saying. There's good people of every color and of every religion, every creed, living in every country, land, hamlet, town, city in the world. Good people, really good people with good hearts. But the problem is that some people have learned that they can acquire power by blaming other people. You know, you take Jesse Jackson. I met him one time. I walked through the door of a hotel. I passed him. We walked shoulder to shoulder right past each other. And I said, "Hello, Reverend." He said, "Hello, buddy." And I thought, I don't know about being a buddy, but they had a Rainbow Coalition meeting in this hotel where we were having a National Space Society function. And I just walked past him, and that was my sum total interaction with him. But he made a lot of money off blaming other people. And he was supposed to his Rainbow Coalition was supposed to be all inclusive, but he made his trade off blaming other people and using that to boycott big corporations. He boycotted Coca-Cola, a lot of other companies, and they paid him retribution money to call his boycotts off. So that's kind of an unfair business practice. But whatever you want to think about it, whether you want to think he was justified or not, I'm not even going to get into that. What I'm going to say is that's a modus operandi. If you want power, if you want political power, if you want to rise in a structure, you want to create a political organization, a kingdom, a tribe that's of that ilk, then you will make a lot of hay by telling people how good they are. You are the best people that ever walked. I mean, Hitler told the Germans they were the master race. The master race. If you had blonde hair and blue eyes, you were the masters. You were the peak. Well, you know, I thought it was always funny. He didn't have blonde hair, so why was he saying that? And I kind of look back at some of the pictures. It seemed to me the pictures I used to see him like he had brown eyes. Now I'm seeing blue eyes. I'm going, did they change something? Is this like Mandela effect or something? What's going on here? It don't add up to me because I thought Hitler had brown eyes. Now some of the old pictures of him, he's got blue eyes. I'm going, that's all. That's you know, I don't remember him. The older pictures of him looking that way. It's like something's changed. And maybe I'm off that one. But but I always thought, you know, some kind of weird fetish he had, or just something that was just, it didn't sound right. Why is he harping on this? Who is he to be harping on blonde hair? You don't even have blonde hair. What is this all about? I got blonde hair. You got blonde hair. You know, actually, I'm strawberry blonde. But you know, it never made any sense to me. I always thought it was goofy. But And I wasn't raised to believe that way. And my father
Right.
fought against the Germans, by the way. So
Yeah. Yeah. My grandfather did too. He was in the Battle of the Bulge, and my
yeah,
husband's grandfather was.
my dad
Both of
was
them
in
got
there.
Purple Hearts.
My dad
You
was
know.
in the Battle of the Bulge. So they were the true Antifa.
Right.
The ones that
And
actually fought the real Nazis.
That's right. And Greg, the sad part about this is some of the people that are reaping the devastation and the horrors of this are our elderly and our vets. One gentleman, 70 plus years old, business owner, his business was burning the night before last. He went in to put the fire out. They grabbed him and beat him senseless. They broke his jaw, broke his ribs, caused head damage. I mean, the insanity, see, in my opinion, if you harm elderly or babies or children, you're the scum of the earth.
I agree.
You're the scum of the earth.
I agree.
So this kind of stuff is going on, and it's not justice. In this country, the reason we became great, the reason we became prosperous, is because we had a basic rule of right and wrong. Our Constitution is very much in the likeness of the Ten Commandments. It just is, whether you agree with that or not. If you steal, there's punishment. If you murder, there's punishment. The individual has freedom and liberty up until the point that they destroy or try to take another individual's rights. Justice is to be imposed or sentenced on the individual that causes harm, not the group of people. Not all the brown eyes or the blue eyes. You remember in elementary school when you did that brown eye, blue eye thing?
No,
I don't know if you.
I've heard about it. We didn't do that.
Yeah, my generation did that. Basically,
I hadn't thought of that when I was in school yet.
We did that. I remember that. If you got blue eyes, basically, you're diseased for the day, and you get treated like that. And it's a education in racism and bigotry, what it feels like to be discriminated against. It's very effective, by the way.
I know what that's like, but that's not.
But this isn't justice. And like, for instance, today, and one of the things I want to comment on is, so I've got the video from my friend. All right. First thing she did is send me a video of dozens of cars coming from south to north out of Chicago with the license plates taken off, taped out, blacked out, what have you. There's footage all over Wisconsin of this. So she sends me this. The next day, she sends me a text message, a prayer request. Her brother Tom, who works in Kenosha, originally my friend grew up around Kenosha in that area. Well, her brother Tom and his family are still down there. And he called her and said, "Sister, it is like a war zone down here. Whole blocks were destroyed, Greg. Whole blocks are destroyed." He was talking about the vehicles that were coming in without license plates, and he had said that all of Kenosha has been taken over gangs. Now, Kenosha is in between, so you have, and you guys can look on a map, you have Milwaukee, which is like right under the arm of Wisconsin, and then down here is Kenosha, and then about 60 miles, about an hour away, is Chicago. So Kenosha is a go-between Milwaukee and Chicago, all right? There are gangs in Milwaukee, Kenosha area, but it's not huge, it's not like Chicago. So for him to call and say,
I've been to both Chicago. I've been to Milwaukee and Chicago both.
Mm-hmm.
I like Milwaukee. It was a nice town to visit.
Yeah, well, Milwaukee's decent. We don't think too highly of it up here in the north.
I can appreciate that.
That part of the state is kind of an armpit to us. And as I'll tell you, it's considered, Milwaukee in that area is considered one of the most segregated parts in the United States. I don't know if you knew that, but that's fact. And so you can go from this very posh, just rich neighborhoods to absolute poor within 3 blocks, and just nothing, broken out windows on houses, kids running around, my husband and I frequented Kenosha the last few years quite often because we have some friends down there that are in the ministry in a church, and we were helping them with their church. And I have yet to make contact with them. I'm concerned that their church was burnt down because there was a big targeting of churches to burn them down, and they were right downtown Kenosha. So I still need to contact them. But long story short, lots of gangs, just it's like a war zone down there. And on top of it, our governor, Tony Evers, which is an absolute moron. This guy is a waste of space. I'm just going to say it. Before he even found out the details, before the investigation had ensued, minutes after this happened, he puts out a press release on his tweets and stuff like that, basically saying what these cops had did was a slaughter in the streets and race, and he's talking about racism and this and that. He inflamed this riot, Greg. He inflamed this, and I'll call it an insurrection. He was the cause of it, and he got he got it real good from people, though, because I mean, there's even the Democrats in our state are calling for civility here and calling him to denounce what is going on, and he refuses.
So let me ask, were there any buses coming into Kenosha?
There was, on Facebook, on some of the stuff that I was reading on the Wisconsin pages, there was word of buses, yes.
All right, that's pretty typical. So
yeah.
Somebody's really paying for and orchestrating this, and they've got to be trained to think to cover up their license plate. So these are trained organized groups, and they're getting funded. And that's been, there's a lot of modus operandi that's been cited, bricks being pre-positioned and all kind of things at these events. So the thing that concerns me is as follows. If all these people are seeing these people coming in with cars with license plates, then you know that law enforcement people has to know that's taking place, state troopers and whoever. That's illegal. That's illegal. They allowed that to happen. They must have been told to allow it to happen. Typically, if people drive, all those people should have been pulled over and arrested. All those cars should have been impounded.
Right. You're exactly right. And this is why a lot of people.
Any decent governor would have done that to protect his citizenry, to protect the homes and properties of the people in the state. They would have pulled over those vehicles and arrested the people and impounded their cars.
Right.
Well, if they needed a national guard.
I was going to say, from the border of Illinois, they have to go through a toll booth. You have to pay to go through. So none of it's adding up. And this is why a lot of people in Wisconsin are calling this a false flag. Not that it didn't happen, but that it was allowed to happen. And false flag in the sense that the powers that be are allowing it to happen.
That is my point right there.
Yeah.
And that begs a lot of questions. It's been allowed to happen. I'll tell you this. When you are communicating in the United States or anywhere in this world now, the agencies know they have software.
Yeah.
You're on one of these things and you're sending out any kind of communication. There's software that monitors everything that goes back and forth.
Sure.
And it has AI, and they've had programs since the 70s that would monitor for certain words. Once you say certain words, they start paying attention to certain conversations.
Right.
Now, these are words that I would say in a regular course. I'm an engineer and I work defense stuff and I talk topics of military matters. So, I would have been lighting this thing up like a Christmas tree from way back. But I pass all the security checks so they know that I'm harmless in those regards. They know I'm a good guy. So I'm not going to start any craziness,
Right.
I believe in protecting my family and myself and so, that's in order. But they know I'm not going to go out and cause any craziness, and nobody's going to blackmail me and all those kind of things they worry about for security risks, because I've passed all these security checks myself. Even though I talk on that stuff and I make those, words, and that's just part of the course. I mean, how do you be in a rocket world without doing that? And that's, that's my
exactly.
So that's just par for the course. We talk that kind of talk, but the fact is that lights their system up. And the more of these things you say, the more it lights up. They know who you associate with. They know what your connections are. They know how you spend your money. They know where you get your money. Therefore, they know at the top within the NSA
Yep.
Who's funding all this? Why aren't they doing something? Because
Right.
you can only
Right.
reach one. There's only one answer to that. They're complicit, and some by
Yep.
default or intentionally.
Or intentional. The deep state wants it.
Bingo.
Because out of chaos comes order.
Well, so what we really have, and so this gets to the nut of it. This is not about Black Lives Matter. It's not about
Right.
race. It's not about even conservative and liberal, which a lot of people think. You know,
Right.
and a lot of people are out there promoting communism, and that's true, and I'm, you know, not for that at all. But it's even beyond that. It's not about liberties versus communism. You know, that's one dimension. That's what they're promoting
Right.
in the street, and we've got to preserve our liberties. And you and I are working together on other venues in that accord. But it's beyond that. It's globalism.
Right. You're exactly right.
It is, the whole thing boils down to one thing and only one thing. It's globalism versus not having globalism. It's,
Right.
It's the order of everything being under one globally.
Right.
Run by the international banksters.
Yes.
They're the
Yes.
ones orchestrating this. Now, there may be somebody orchestrating above them. How high up it goes? Rex Bear and I were joking last night about it being space aliens, but you know, that's me with Rex Bear. We had a large. You know?
And to prove your point that this is a big banker globalist agenda, what are these people hitting? What are their targets? It's not the big Walmarts.
No, it's the small businesses.
It's the small mom and pop shops they're putting out.
That's what I've been saying all along. I've been telling about it on my channel. Vote with your dollar and vote for the small guys. They're trying every way they can to put the small guy out of business. They are creating all kind of regulations and certifications. If you're a plumber or an electrician, small sole proprietorship, you got to pass the 20-something certifications now, and it costs you like $1,000. You got to spend lots of hours on each and every little test, and it's nonsense. It's all to put that person up because they know the small business can't bear that. It's overbearing. But the bigger companies, so this happens not just at the national and state level, this happens in your city hall. And city hall is just as guilty, or maybe more guilty than anybody. The city hall, what we ignore. Because why? Because these companies pay the politicians to pass that stuff because they get market share. And so what happens? They take over, they get more and more market, or they get nice little ads, and they tell you how sweet they're. When they send people out to work in their house, it's kids. You pay them 3 times as much money, and the service is shoddy. They don't have the knowledge of that mom and pop, that sole proprietor that used to come to your house. And you know, like on AC systems, you know, HVAC, you know, the guy would know that, hey, this was a certain solenoid and these kind of things had a tendency to fall a certain way. And then we can just do this to fix it, or maybe we just need to replace this. But now they want to replace the whole system. So now you're not only paying 3 times the labor rate, you're buying entire systems when a subcomponent might be all you need to fix. So people spend tens of thousands of dollars when they only need to be spending maybe hundreds of dollars. And they're getting ripped off, and they're not safe. They're less safe. This is all done in the name of safety. But I will guarantee you you're less safe with the systems these municipalities are passing. All the certifications are required. And you and I know that's the same way on the farm. You and I know that they're trying to regulate the small farmers out of business. They're trying everything they can to do, all in the name of safety. But what do you get in return for that? You get feedlot animals that you know, are standing udder deep, and you know what, that have to be just plied full of hormones and all kind of antibiotics because the conditions they're living in is nasty. You get workers who aren't farmers, they're just hired hands who don't give a rip about what they're doing. They don't even wash their hands, even though they're required to. They don't do it. I both know that. So you get nasty stuff passing, you're getting food, and the more this goes on, the more people get E. coli, the more diseases occurring. The less clean your food is. Your safety is inversely proportional to the so-called legislation that they pass to make you safe. What I'm saying is it makes you unsafe. The stuff that they promote is junk. The laws passed by Congress, by state legislatures, and city halls are aimed against the individual. They're aimed against the business. They're aimed against humanity because you got less safety, you spend more money, you got crap. It's don't even, and stuff they talk about being for the environment is trashing the environment. They're lying to you through the teeth, and they're laughing all the way to the bank. And
Yeah.
when the shutdowns happen, guess who made, $500 billion in just a few weeks?
The corporations, the
The
big banks.
big boys.
Yep.
And the small guys were being killed. So that was the one punch. Now with the riots, you got the two punch. It's the one
Yep.
two punch. And small guys are being obliterated. Most people don't
Yeah.
realize that most businesses are operating off of a 7% margin. They don't have a lot of margin to
Right.
give. People who are in business typically work 80 hours a week. They're not a 40-hour-a-week job. There's a lot of people sitting, who maybe has a 40-week-an-hour job, and they're living in. They are covetous of the guys who's owning the stores and stuff like that. They don't realize the chances these people are taking, all the work they do,
Yeah.
and it's for the chance to succeed. And in 7 years, only 1 in 7 businesses make it. So they know they're working hard. They're working the took off. They put their money in it. This was their life dream. And some little kids, tots on a tantrum, decide, oh, I'm mad. I'm going to burn down everything they've worked for all their lives. They saved money for decades. Their life dream was this business. And I'm just going to go burn it down. It's okay.
Right.
No, it's not okay. It's not okay. Two wrongs do not make a right. And you're not serving your cause. You are actually backfiring your cause. You're creating hatred against you.
That's right.
You claim
That's
you stand
right.
for. You're generating hatred, and that's not good. That's
Yep.
not good. Because what I said is you can't fight hate with hate. You can only fight hate with
No, you
love.
can't. Yeah, that's right.
I would like to stand on olive branch of love, but they're going to get mad at me for what I've just said because I've just said the truth.
Right. Right.
They're going to get hopping mad about that. But all I'm saying is we need to extend. I did the videos. I talked to my own people. Said, look, try to understand the other guy, and I still say that. Try to understand where they're coming from, and then try to reach out to them. Reach out with love, and I still say that. But if somebody's going to stick a gun in my face, I'm not going to accept it. I'm not going to say, oh, please shoot me. No.
Right. and that's it, Greg. You had mentioned the young guys getting angry. If you look at the demographic of these people at these riots, specifically in Kenosha,
the black people aren't part of it. It's the white kids.
Yeah, it's white kids, black, but they're kids. That's the key, because children are easily emotionally swayed.
Bingo.
They're being manipulated by the powers that be. You don't see the 30 to 60-year-olds out there. You're not seeing it. And one of the reasons
they've overcome the crap they learned in school. They once they got into life and discovered how the world really operates, they realized that the teachers lied to them. They were full of crap in the school systems.
Exactly.
I said in one of my videos that when I was in high school, I was a communist. And I was, because that's how I'd been indoctrinated. I just took and took it to the logical conclusion. But when I got out and had to make a living and saw how things really worked, it really opened my eyes, and I saw the fallacies of all the stuff I'd been told. I saw that it didn't work and why it didn't work and how it was destined to fail. And there's reasons that people are not busting down the doors to get into mainland China and back in the old Soviet Union days or into all those states like that. Why aren't people running to go to Venezuela? It's not just because things are bad in Venezuela. There's reasons things are bad in Venezuela.
Right.
And I heard, well, it's because of the corruption. Well, you get corruption in the one-party system. Communism, only show me a communist society that's got a freedom of choice. Show me a communist society in which you have alternate parties. No, they're all one-party states. And anytime you've got one party leading anything, corruption abounds.
Right.
I don't care what party it is. Corruption is going to abound because once you've got your way, I tell people this, and you got to understand this is the case. When power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. There may be a few little exceptions, but that is the general rule. It's a general rule, but it is a workable general rule, and it happens. Birds of a feather flock together, and he who has a goal makes the rule.
That's right.
In this case, banksters. So when you get these three principles put together, unless there's some really strong checks and balances, you're going to get tyranny in every case. That's why we need the freedoms. But these kids are out telling us that we don't need freedoms, that freedoms are against social justice. I'm going to tell you, those kids, you're not going to get social justice. What you're going to do by doing what you're doing is you're going to evoke the jackboot of the deep state, because they're going to say, oh, yeah, they're going to use what you're doing and how people react to you from the other side. They're going to play you both against each other and say, oh, we got to stop this nonsense. We got to have jackboot on everybody's neck. And,
Yeah.
and the deep state is going to laugh at everyone.
Yeah, they're going to get fascism. They're going to get the very thing that they're screaming against.
Amen.
And
exactly. So they're setting the stage and they're being played. So why is it? And here's the ultimate question that these kids don't want to answer. Why is it that the uber rich are the ones that are funding what they're doing? And it's the case. They're being funded by the uber rich, the capitalists.
Yep.
You know what? They're like those shops I was talking about, those big companies.
Yeah.
They want market share. They don't want competition. So they're happy to pay these people who want to destroy everything else. Because in this society, when it all plays out, it's not going to be a true communist society. It's going to be them sitting at the top. It may be like another society I'm aware of, in which there's billionaires sitting at the top, and they call themselves communists. But if you look at how their social order is set up, how they operate,
right.
You know, on a point-by-point basis, and compare communism and fascism, look at China today, and you grade them. Go to Wikipedia and grade them, and you tell me what kind of society they actually have. I'm not even going to tell you. Go grade it for yourself.
Right.
Just go look. That's the kind of society you're going to get. The people that's on top are not doing this. They're not spending their vast fortunes to instigate all this, to disenfranchise themselves.
Right.
They're living big, fat, and comfortable in those ginormous uber mansions.
They want their worker
They're not going to
bees.
give that up.
They want their worker bees.
Bingo.
They don't want you to have more freedom, more liberty. They don't want you to be able to walk down the street without being persecuted. They want you to be a good worker bee and know your place.
Their dream is the old feudalism of old Europe.
Yes.
There is a ruling class, and they're it, and everybody else is serfs.
Yep.
And let me explain what that means. It's slavery. What they're really aiming for is to make everyone.
One moment, Greg. What, honey? No. Go do the. Okay. Sorry about that. My daughter's doing the chores. She needed.
I'm against slavery of all forms. And
yes.
And what happened in the past is reprehensible. To own slaves, for one human being to own another, is horrible. For one human being to judge another human being on the basis of color or skin is horrible in any case. You know, now one of the things that are being said is that if you're white, you're racist by definition because you're white, and only white people can be racist. So that means when I was in the Army, I was shocked that some of the black people I knew in the Army were mad at Vietnamese because the Vietnamese were moving in their community.
It's crazy. I had that one gentleman on my channel today he said, because I had said, you know, back in the 80s and 90s and 70s, you remember All in the Family, which was a great show. You had a black family and a white people laughing about their differences, you know, and there are differences culturally speaking. There's nothing wrong with that. We should be able to laugh about that like we did back in the day. And one of the things I said, I'm as white as they get and I can't dance, and that's proof of it. And somebody said to me, that's racist to say that. Well, you know what?
It's racist to joke at yourself. That's what he was saying.
So apparently I'm a racist against my own race. You know, they're a bunch of stupid dogs chasing their tail.
But if you were any other color and you said that, that wouldn't be racist. It was only racist because you a white girl and you said
it. Exactly. You know, it's a sad situation. You know, for me, and as I said earlier in my video, I'm over 5 hours away from Kenosha. I am 4 hours and 45 minutes away from Milwaukee. But what's happening down there is having an effect on us. We have been told, Greg, and it's circulating up here that these groups intend on targeting rural farms, rural country folks. Now, when we talk about the corporatism, right? The one thing that they want to do, as we just discussed, is destroy mom and pops, and they want to destroy the small family farm. And now these groups are playing into that by making threats of burning down family farms.
They're making threats of it. But tell me something. Do you believe that they will really get far out in the rural areas with this?
I think, here's the thing, Greg, and I have discussed this before. When farmers go to bed at night, they go to bed. They're sleeping hard. Unless the dog is barking, they're sleeping hard. It would be very, dear God, help any family if this happens to them. It would be very easy for somebody to slip in under the cover of night and do something nefarious. It would be very easy. And they could get in one night dozens of barns down. And then when the farmers are abreast to it, of course, then they would be on guard. But the
Well,
fact
I can see it getting started, but I don't think it's going to penetrate very far.
It wouldn't penetrate very far. No,
once the farmers wake up to it, it ain't going to go. It will travel no further.
That's right. Once rural folks and farmers are awake to it, they may get, like I said, a half a dozen barns down in one. It would have to be coordinated, and it would have to be like that. Yeah. But once we're awake to it, and this is what I said, warning to those who have any ill intentions towards the farmer, we can hit a tick off a deer's ass at 350 yards. That's a fact.
I get you. Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, and you're barking up the wrong tree. We aren't like city folks. We just aren't. Our livestock, we believe in stewardship. Our livestock is an extension of our family.
Yeah.
We don't treat them like they're our family. They're not human, but we believe that God has put us over those animals to protect them, and we will do that. You know, so if those are the intentions of some people out there, you are barking up. That's just a word of warning. Don't do it. Don't go there. Because, you know, I think they're more apt. There's also circulating, you know, snaps of these groups calling to go to the suburbs. And one suburb in particular was Sauk City. And may I add, before I go on to that, I got word yesterday from some friends that people in Madison, Wisconsin are fleeing because they were gathering in Madison.
Wow.
And so, you know, it's spreading. I called my sister-in-law and said, hey, you know, you let us know if the shit hits the fan. You get the kids out, get them to grandma and grandpa's, get them up here, and we're coming down to protect your property. You know, but I want to say something about that, because we do have patriots stepping up to protect these properties, and I'm all for that, okay? But we can't have kids out there. One of the reasons there was what happened last night happened is because he was a kid. I'm not saying that he wasn't justified for defending his life, but it didn't have to happen. It happened because he was a kid. We don't need 15, 16, 17, and 18-year-olds out there. Okay, guys? Are you familiar with Coeur d'Alene, Idaho?
Quarterly? No, I've been.
Coeur d'Alene.
I've been through the Bitterroot Mountain, northern Idaho, but I don't remember the community.
So Coeur d'Alene, Idaho is outside of not Seattle, the other big city.
Boise?
What was that?
Boise, Idaho?
No.
Is it close to Spokane, Washington?
Spokane. It's out. So it's about an hour outside.
And I've probably been through there because I drove through the interstate going to that area.
It's a gorgeous town. I have a friend out in Washington, okay, and she kind of got me interested in this, and I found somebody on YouTube. They videoed the whole interaction when there was threats to this small town by the big city that they were going to come out, and they did. They brought the buses, but guess what, Greg? They got organized.
I saw videos. I've seen videos of that.
Yep, it was adults. You didn't see any young 20-somethings in there. It was 30 to 60-year-olds, any able bodies, right? They had patriots on dozens on every block. And guess what? When the buses pulled up, Greg, they turned tail and they took off.
Well, I'll tell you another story where that happened here in Alabama. It was a rural community here in Alabama that happened in. And they set the buses there, a rural town, I should say.
Yeah.
I should name the town or not because I got this story from some of the locals there.
Sure.
They showed up, and all the good old boys were there with their overalls and shotguns and whatever else they had. And there were also people on the roofs, and they had things with them, if you know what I mean.
Prepared.
Yeah, they were prepared, shall we say. And another thing that happened was the black ministers showed up with the sheriffs, and the black ministers and the sheriffs prayed together. They don't want no part of this. They don't want their communities torched and burnt down. I mean, everybody suffers. And nothing had happened in this town. It wasn't a place where any incidents had happened. It just, these people decided to target this town because they said they were going to hit rural towns.
Yes,
All the locals showed up, and they were ready. And, you know, even like I said, even the black ministers showed up, and, you know, they were on the side with the police. So they got together and they prayed.
Right.
For the local
Right.
sheriffs. And, you know, they looked out, you know, those guys in buses, they looked out at the black ministers and the sheriff's praying, and looked there on the roofs, and they saw all those good old boys, and they just turned around and left.
We're out of here. Yep.
And that's the way it needs to be. But, you know, so, and I think maybe some of these people are paid to do that. And there's also paid trolls that are going to attack us here on these programs. And so and they'll do it for weeks after we post something like this. And so we just know what it is. What I would say to these people on the other side is, you're not helping yourself. You're not helping your cause, what you think your cause is. You're creating hatred that's going to backfire.
Right.
And I will add that, you know, you've got some points. That's the problem is most people never listen this far in the video. They're going to see that what we're talking about. They'll never watch the video. They'll make a snap judgment and they'll just attack him. I don't know how many times people comment about my videos. I mean, it's like probably over half the comments on my videos or something that's like, you didn't watch the video because we talked about that in the video.
Right.
I say all the time. And it's just human nature. But especially these guys, they're out just to attack everything anyway. They're not going to watch anything because that requires time. But if just by chance you happen to be watching this, you know, you know, there are injustices. There are things of
absolutely
brutality, and that should be stood against. And, you know, this may be a case of police brutality. And what they're really aggravated about, Stacy, is they have perception that the cops get off of this, that they're not punished, that they get away with it continuously. And that needs to be addressed. If there is police, and that has happened, I would say that has happened. So, you know, the cops are kind of a club. So if there's cases where wrong is done, you know, the cops should not be above the law. Nobody should be above the law, because if you're above the law, you're royalty. And one of the key tenets of our society should be that we do not accord loyalty. Nobody should be loyalty. I think our Congress has set itself up as loyalty by passing a health care bill for the people, but another one from themselves. That is actually not, it's against the Constitution. Now, some people are talking about a 20th Amendment or something that's supposed to get rid of it. It's already there. They're breaking laws that's already in existence. They shouldn't be doing this stuff in the first place. You know, I think we need to throw all the bums out, frankly, because they're corrupt. They're all corrupt.
Clean slate, do over. That's the way I feel about it.
And it ought to be cleaned ever so often. Just get rid of them all, because they're going to get those three things developing. It's going to grow trust, and that's the problem with the deep state. The people have been there so long, and they're entrenched like ticks. So they just dug in, and they're sucking your blood, and they're going to fight to stay there and keep sucking your blood.
It's become an oligarchy is what it is.
Bingo.
You've got the ruling class and then the serfs, like you just said.
Most of these three-letter agencies ought to just be eliminated. They have no value added to people.
I agree.
All those people need to be sent home. They need to be put in the bread lines. You know, you know, and you know, we're going to make a lot of people mad saying that, but you know, they're serving the corporations. They were sent there supposedly to take care of people and safety and environment, blah, 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 blah. But they're in beds with the corporation supposed to be regulating. And I've done a video on that, how government is actually run, Stacy, where I laid that out. And, you know, you can go on, and I can go on endlessly, and there's tons of cases where this is taking place. It's just across the board. It's sickening when you think about how much these agencies and the companies are supposed to be regulating are in bed with each other. But all that said, so for the young people, I understand your passion. I had that passion, and I still have passion. But you know, I've come to learn a lot, and I will like to help you understand that you're not helping yourself. In fact, you're helping the opposite. By doing what you're doing, you're being played. You're being played big time, and they don't want to hear this. This will make them mad to hear that, because that goes against what's, you know, their world.
Well, Greg, I would encourage them to seek their elders.
Yeah.
The Black community has got some awesome elder figures that lived through the 60s, lived through the, you know, MLK, and walked with him, and seek those elders out and seek that wisdom.
He talked using Gandhi's methods. Gandhi, you know, got rid of the British rule by peaceful protest. So it can work. So some people may think it can work. It can work. It can work. That's what MLK used, and MLK changed the United States with peaceful protest. He paid a dear price for it, and it's most unfortunate. But that shows it can work. But we're not talking about really the Black community. The Black community, a lot of the Black community don't want this because they're being blamed for it. You know,
They are,
it's,
and
they're being blamed for it. It's not them. It's the white kids.
Yes,
that are doing it.
you're right.
And
You're right. Antifa.
What I see, it's white kids. It's white kids. Almost, mostly. There's some black kids going along, but it's mostly white kids.
Right.
And they're not really. They're more in it for the. They believe in communism and stuff like that, but they're still being.
I agree with that.
What they're going to get. Communism isn't worth having, but that isn't what they're going to get either. They don't realize who's playing them and how it will play out. And they're not, to the people that are paying them and putting them out there, these kids are cannon fodder to them. They don't care.
Right.
They're
there definitely needs to be some elders and some guidance in among this if they're going to do what they're going. If they really listen, I have said before, Greg, I don't know if I told you this, but I had police officers pull a gun on me twice in my life for stupid reasons, and I'm not comparing my issues to any legitimate police brutality issues. There's been, people killed for selling illegal cigarettes. That kind of nonsense has got to stop. But I had, when I was 17 years old, my license plate was upside down. I pulled into a park, got out of the car, and a cop that was behind me didn't even have his lights on, pulls up real fast, puts his lights on after he stops, then pulls his gun out on me. Get back in the car, get back in the car. I'm 17 years old, and he pulled a gun on me for an upside down license plate, which my brother thought it would be a funny joke to do to me because he worked on my car the night before. Second time.
Okay, now wait a minute. So you got pulled over for an upside down license plate, but it's okay if somebody totally covers their license plate. What was I talking about earlier? Bingo. Thank you.
Bingo. Second time in my life, I was 20 minutes away by nearby town, and I had the heat plate from my muffler fall down, and it was dragging. And I was only about 5 minutes away, and I had to cross one road to get to my dirt roads, and I thought I'm home free. But that one road was a state highway, and a state guy pulled me over, and I had that feeling, and I call it the Holy Spirit. Tread lightly and be wise. That's what I heard. I look in the mirror, and this guy's pulling his gun out as he's walking up to me. Gets up to the window. Now, I had rolled down the window that far because I was not going to roll down the window and let this guy pull me out of my seat with a gun, on me. So I rolled down that window that far, and he's got his gun like this. Get out of the car. Get out of the car. I have my precious daughters. I mean, my youngest was just little. My oldest was like 11 or 12 or 13. They're screaming and crying. And I had to be firm. And I'm not suggesting anybody do this, but I knew if I got out of the car, he was going to kill me. I knew it. I just had that feeling. And so I said, I'm not getting out. My oldest daughter called 911. And within 5 minutes, the state or our county sheriff was there, and they took care of the situation. But Greg, so I am not oblivious to the evils that can come from authority figures.
There is police brutality.
That is absolutely, it happens. I mean, a couple years ago, the BLM shot a guy for camping on federal land out in California. Told him to get up. He stood up.
For those that don't know what you're talking about Bureau of Land Management.
Yes. Bureau of Land Management.
There is more than one BLM. And so what we have here is an AOP, which is an acronym overlap.
That's the original definition is the Bureau of Land Management. But they shot that guy dead for camping on federal land.
Now, see, that should be a crime right there, because who's the federal land belong to? The people of the United States. The people should have the right to go camp on federal land. And in fact, should you even have to apply for a license to do it or whatever? I mean, quite frankly, people should be permitted to camp on federal land. What are we going to do in a bug out situation? It hits a fan and people have to fan out.
The biggest wildernesses are the federal parks, the state and federal parks.
Like when we had the shutdown recently, they shut all those places down. That's wrong. A lot of people actually live in their vehicles. There are a lot of people that live in vans and things like that, and they didn't know where to go. That's bogus. These people shouldn't be permitted to be there, and they were being safe. So this is all a bunch of hooey. So that's all deep state stuff. That land don't belong to the state; it belongs to the people.
It is, and I'm all for getting rid of full immunity in the police. I think if a police officer has to engage and has to shoot somebody, he should be at the same level as anybody. There shouldn't be an automatic immunity there. He should have to prove, like anybody, you're innocent until proven guilty. The state would have to prove, you know, that keeps the playing field even. That keeps the oligarchy null and void. So there are things we can do. Get rid of the amnesty, you know. And here's the thing, guys. We can complain until we're blue in the face about the militarization of our police forces, because they're called to be peacekeepers, right? They're not called to be a standing army on our soil. But guess what? These riots are giving and backing the reason for them to be militarized.
And
Because
that's
how
a
else are
shame.
they gonna stop
That's
it?
a shame. I've always thought one of the reasons that we're having police brutality and all these problems is because when they got militarized, it made them feel more like they were a part of something else and made them feel apart from the community.
Right.
And that the police ought to feel like they're part of the community. But these riots are having the opposite effect on our society for what we need.
Right.
So
Right.
that's another reason that the people involved in this need to really think about and question what they're supporting and what they're involved in. Maybe they're
Right.
getting a little pay to do this or something. I don't know. But, you know, you got to look at the long-term ramifications of what you're doing. What's the consequences of your actions? There's going to be a lot
Right.
of blowback in this, and it's going to have a lot of, I mean, you're really, what's going to be left when you tear the society down? You think it's going to be rebuilt and you're going to be in charge of this new order and you're going to be able to sit back on your couch and play video games and get money. It's not going to work that way.
Right.
It's
Right.
not at all going to work that way.
Right.
And look at the history of when people have been the so-called disaffected and the brown shirts that have led to a lot of these so-called revolutions and putting a lot of people in power and
Right.
groups and parties in power. The people that do that are usually among the first to get eliminated, because once you're in power and once you
Yeah.
get big state power, you don't want a bunch of discontents in your system. You want suck-ups.
Yeah.
And those people aren't suck-ups. They're not that kind of personality. So their personality type plays well into them getting the power they want. But once the power is there, they're expendable. They don't
Right.
want those kind of people. So you a lot of these people don't realize what they're stepping into, and that's been a historical case. That's happened again and again. So
Right.
there's a lot of risk in going down that road. The road we need to go down is a road of understanding and peace.
Yes. Yes.
But you know, if you're threatening to burn people's places down, you know, how can they react with peace and love? There's a limit.
You're going to be on defense or offense.
Bingo.
You're those
Exactly.
people. You're going to, you know, and I'm not going to have mercy for you if you come to try to burn my farm down. It's not
Bingo.
going to happen.
No.
You know, I just, you know, there's some great people down in Kenosha. Our old friends, Bruce and Aikisha, fantastic couple. We did outreach for their ministry down there to raise money for their church. And, you know, the people of inner city Kenosha, when we stepped out, I had said this in my prior video, you know, there's this family from up north, you know, I mean, we got stared at because, you know, we stuck out like a thumb, you know. But once they got to know us, once Bruce and Aikisha said, come on, meet our friends, you know what? Man, these people, they were so loving. They were so welcoming. But so I have a perspective because I heard in the churches that the black churches, the Black Baptist churches, and that we went to these churches, we heard the stories of the young kids talking about their brothers being shot, talking about, I know that there is legitimate atrocities on that community. It is legit. And but it is not all the people causing havoc. The people down there that we met were fantastic, loving. When we walked into the churches, oh man, they were shocked to see us there. I mean, of course they were, because they're not used to seeing a bunch of folks from up north come into their church. But once we started worshiping and praising with them and, you know, getting to know each other, welcome back, come back anytime. You know, one thing I have to say about their community, and specifically the one of the things Greg, I'm going to talk about a cultural difference right now. One of the things I took from that experience is the absolute honor that the Black community gives their elders specifically in their churches, is what I witnessed. Amen. I was amazed. They had couches sitting up front by the altar with the women, with their elder women in their big hats, and that was their place of honor in the church. Our community doesn't do that. We're not respecting our elders like that. So, you know, there is some absolute wonderful, wonderful, wonderful things about the people in that area. And I just want to make sure people know that, you know, when I'm talking about this, that I'm not talking stupid, or that I don't know, or, you know, accuse me of being a racist. I'm not.
Let me explain something from my end. I have a black family. I have a black daughter. I married a black lady, married to him a long time, and I'm still accepted into all of her family as a family member. When her family, they're from Africa. When they come to the United States, they come visit me, even though her and I are not married. They come visit me to this day. And there's a couple, my ex-wife had a couple of her sisters, that one of them married a white guy, and they got divorced. I want to tell you what, we go to the family reunions and functions, even though we're not still married. We're still family, and they treat us with all the respect and love in the world, the whole family. I'm still Uncle Greg. And I'm gonna tell you something, I adore the world out of these people. They're wonderful people. They have great family values. In our society here in America, we have tried to rip families apart. And it's not just black families, it's the poor white families too. They have been ripped apart because there's advantages to mothers to have kids and raise them out of wedlock. But those kids don't have the benefit of the father. They grow up with a lot of resentment in their lives. They're you know, they miss out on a lot, and that's most unfortunate. Maybe that's why some of these kids are doing what they're doing, is they didn't have the kind of nourishment they needed in their life. Maybe we need to find other ways to come back in and figure out how to plug these gaps and to fix these problems, systemic problems in our society. And there's several of them, and you know, some of it is police brutality. And so how do we reach out? Because, you know, you're going to get sociopaths in every walk in life. And some of them have to have a badge on. Now, it may be that people are attracted to power. You know, you might have a few more of those in a police force than you would in some other profession. But there's still, I got a guy up the street that I think the world of, he's a cop. My dad was the head, he was the chief deputy sheriff in the county I grew up in the years before I was born. So law enforcement is, you know, something that I respect, but I know you got to respect that with a degree of measure, because it can be abused. It's a power, and any power can be abused, as I just mentioned. You know, and absolute power still does corrupt, absolutely. So no one should have absolute power. No one under any circumstance.
I agree.
And what we're doing, though, is setting up a society that enables that very thing, that wants to take our lives and our liberties, our property, our rights to defend ourselves. So what walking around sense does it make to say that we can't defend ourselves? We can't have the means for that. And oh, by the way, we're going to defund the police that would defend you. And oh, by the way, we want to come burn your house down too. That don't make any kind of walking around sense whatsoever. But yet that is a narrative we get, especially for some people in a certain political party. They seem to be totally in bed with that. Not everybody, but some. And I do think this is a minority, but it's the vocal minority. It's the minority that gets the camera. They're the ones out making all the racket and causing the problem.
It's not even 1%. It's less than 1%. I mean, it's
you know, but they also cast a pall, a light, a shadow on other people that are associated with them and around them. And a lot of them resent it, and rightfully so. As I would. It's like, no, you don't speak for me. That's what I'd be saying. If, you know, I'm white. Did I like the KKK? Heck no, I got no use for those. They're a bunch of idiots. I got no use for that at all. That's going to make some people mad too, I suppose. Racism is not right, because everybody has value. Everybody has heart. The creator, the greater creator, the God from above, put a spirit in every human being, whether you want to believe in him or not. We all have a spirit. We all have love. Everybody has a heart. There are sociopaths. That's a problem. Sociopaths have no empathy. No race has monopoly on sociopaths. We have our, you know, Hitler. You know, he was a white sociopath, right? You know, he didn't have blonde hair. I'm kind of glad he didn't, because that would even cast more shadow on those of us that do. You know, and and I've had a couple other people that kind of, you know, sympathize with his way of thinking, who also weren't blonde, and they would look at me and start talking that kind of nonsense. And I'm like, you're sick. What are you like? You're
twisted. Like, and you know, one little tidbit. What did Hitler do? He focused on the kids, didn't he? He went. The Hitler Youth. And that's what we see doing this. Man, people got to wake up, Greg. We've got to see that these kids are being manipulated. And I'm going to give a word of warning to you patriots out there, you God-fearing patriots that want to step in and help. You need to be very careful. I'm not discouraging you from doing it, but what the justice system is going to do to this kid that had to shoot these people to defend it, because they threw a Molotov. Okay, so let me back up a little bit.
Story. What happened? All right, let me tell you what the narrative is. The narrative don't make sense. I read this article where all this went down, and the article said this kid was running, saying that he had shot someone, that he had shot someone somewhere else. And so they chased him to disarm him because he had shot someone. Now, he shot 3 people there, but the fact of the matter is only 3 people were shot. Somebody wasn't shot somewhere else.
Right.
So that does not add up.
This is the timeline, Greg. Police pull up. I saw the video, and you can go to my channel on my last video that I posted, the live video. It's there. It's within that video. It's 20 minutes. Police pull up. There was a bunch of patriots defending gas stations and other various businesses. They pull up in their MRAPs, and they tell these guys with the guns, we're going to push the mobs towards you because you can handle it. All right? Because why, Greg? Because the police, their hands have been tied. They're not allowed to shoot. All they can do is tear gas, okay? So this is what they say. So they start pushing this crowd into the corner to where the patriots are defending these businesses. Somehow, now at one point, the kid, now they're saying he's 17. I can't verify that right now. I'm pretty sure that that's right, but I can't verify it. He actually asked early on in the evening the police officers for a bottle of water, and the police officers threw him a bottle of water and said, thank you, we're so glad you guys are here because they need the help, okay? Fast forward to sometime later, somehow this kid gets separated from his group, all right? He got separated. The mob surrounds him, throws a Molotov cocktail at him, which he dodges, and he takes off running to try to get away. They're throwing bricks, they're throwing stuff at him. He ends up having to turn around and shoot once, and that was the gentleman he hit in the head and he shot. But that gentleman that he shot in the head was attacking him. He takes off running again. The mob comes around him again, hits him. I think it's a skateboard is what I've seen in the video. Hits him with the skateboard. He falls. At that point, he falls. He's on his back with his long rifle, and he ends up shooting 2 more people in self-defense. All right? This kid tried to exit the area. He tried to escape, and that's the first rule of law. Like, if you're going to go to a court, you have to try to prove that you were trying to get out without harming anybody. He did that. But they threw a Molotov cocktail at him, and then they started attacking and beating him. Then after that situation was done, he puts his sidearm down, puts his hands up, and he runs to the police officers to try to turn himself in and tell them what happened. And the police officers didn't stop, so he just followed the cop cars until somebody got out so that he could say what happened. He wasn't running from the cops. He didn't go out and murder somebody for the sake of murdering somebody. He was trying to exit what happened. Don't ask me how he got separated from his group, but you know what? In the heat of the moment, and when the shit hits the fan, so to speak, things happen and people get separated from their group. So that's kind of the backstory behind that. One of the faults that is wrong is he shouldn't have been there to begin with. He drove up from Illinois. Number one, he is not from the area. Number one, he's 17. He didn't belong there. In Wisconsin, you have the right to open carry in the woods at age 12. Actually, even younger than that. We have hunting as early as, I believe it's age 6 now or 7. So if you're in the woods with an adult up to age 11, you can carry a gun. From age 11, 12, 13, 14, up till 18, you can carry a gun in the woods. But to open carry legally in the street in Wisconsin, you have to be 18. So he was in the wrong right there. He shouldn't have been there. He shouldn't have had a gun in his hand, well, per our laws for him to be able to do that. And this is what I'm getting. I want to warn people. Stand your ground in your communities. If a family member calls you and asks for help to protect their property and it's in a different community, go. By all means, you've been welcomed by that private property owner. Don't be driving to other states or other communities that you're not familiar with, thinking that you're going to come there and you're going to defend the whole as a mass. I'll tell you why, because what's happening in these cases, and if you read, Seattle and all this, the first thing is you got to try to prove that you didn't have to be there. Now, of course, under our Constitution, we have liberty to be anywhere we want, right? They don't question the rioters why they're there, right? But the first thing you have to prove is that you had to be there. Why were you there? You shouldn't have been there. Don't fall into that trap. If you don't have to be there, don't be there. And that's why I say the local communities have to step up and protect their communities, or regions. I travel 30, 45 minutes. If somebody called us in, we'd be happy to go and help within that 45-minute, span. But to drive somewhere far off without being invited by people. Now, there was somebody said that his grandparents had owned the car dealership. I don't know if that's true or not, but even if it is, he was 17. He shouldn't have been carrying a gun in Wisconsin. So while I feel he was justified in protecting his life, he's gonna get nailed for something because he wasn't supposed to be open carrying in Wisconsin,
Well, you've got a point right there. He was definitely not supposed to be there. He was too young. And that's what we need to watch out. Nobody should be using kids for any of this stuff.
Right.
Because a kid doesn't have the same level of discretion, the same maturity. They're more emotional. There are some adults that's also very emotional and reactionary. And you ought to really judge if that's the kind of person you've got amongst you, because that's a person who's going to shoot a kid or do something that, totally shoot somebody that when it's totally uncalled for because they panic. So certain things, I've seen groups, the NFAU or whatever they call themselves, walking around, or UA, walking around down the streets with their M16s, pointing them at everybody in the crowd walking by. Or there was a kid that was in Kenosha who pointed his gun, a kid too, who had a gun, pointed it at a reporter. One, why did he have a gun? And why did you just point at a reporter? They're just pointing, they think they're in a video game or something. You don't ever point a weapon at anyone.
Right.
Unless you intend to use it. You should never, ever point a weapon at anyone at all unless there is intent to use it. And you need to consider when you do that, somebody may interpret that intent, whether it's there or not. Now, if you're really discerning, you might know that kid has no intent to do that. He's just being a dumb kid. But sometimes, people are reactive, including a lot of cops. That's where a lot of shootings have taken place. You need to have the discernment. You need to be able to judge and not overreact. And so I would appeal to the patriots who, when it comes time that they have to defend things, to use that discernment and realize a lot of these people outside are kids. And a lot of them are, they are following their world model, what they've been taught, and it's in their hearts. They believe that's true, even though we know better from our sides, and they will disagree with that, of course, but they will learn eventually. So hopefully, but we've got to use our discretion and only use force when it's absolutely necessary.
Exactly.
Only to the degree that's necessary. Force might be a fist, and that's that should be applied before something that's more pointy or hot and travels fast, if you know what I mean.
Well, this isn't a game. It's not Call of Duty. This is real life.
No, it's real life. It's real people, and we're talking about kids.
Right.
We're talking literally about kids. So.
And you know what, Greg? Some of these stupid kids that are doing these stupid things, in 25, 30, 40 years from now, they might be president. I mean, seriously, or they might have the cure for cancer, or they might. Everybody's stupid to a certain extent when they're young. Okay.
Amen. Well, we ought to know we've been there, right? I had my stupidities. I told you I was a communist when I was young. Yeah, I was stupid.
Right.
But I outgrew it.
I was a Democrat. I voted for Bill Clinton. My first election, I voted for Bill Clinton.
Stacy, I forgive you. You know what? I was not eligible to vote when Jimmy Carter ran the first time, but I was, and I probably would have voted for him then. But the second time he ran, I voted for Ronald Reagan.
Did you?
Yes,
Yeah.
I did. Now, I am more of a libertarian sort, but anybody wants to take away certain liberties of mine, I will vote for whomever I think can defeat them.
I'm
That
exactly the
has
same.
seldom been the libertarian candidate, by the way. Although I have voted
Right.
for some libertarian candidates. Like I said, I'm basically libertarian, but I am going to vote for the one who I think is going to be most effective at defending my rights. And
Right.
that's important. To me, my most precious thing is the rights that I have. They have been enumerated for the most part in here.
Right. Right.
It says I have rights that are not
And
enumerated.
even your rights that aren't recognized in there are protected.
And that's what the Ninth Amendment says.
That's right.
They were afraid by enumerating rights that somebody would think that's all the rights we have. And of course, that is exactly where we are today. They ignore the Ninth Amendment, and they're doing
Right.
everything they can legally to totally neuter each and every single one of them. And these kids seem to be totally complicit with it because they don't really understand the value of freedom yet.
Right.
They don't understand it.
One example of that is, like, you wouldn't think it'd be illegal to plant a garden, right? They're making it illegal to plant a garden in the city to feed your family. That may not mention in that Constitution that you have the right to garden, but it's protected.
They wouldn't have even thought that would have been
No.
It's so ridiculous.
Could you imagine? I mean, to tell a group of people they couldn't hunt or they couldn't fish or they couldn't garden that would have been not something that would have entered their consciousness ever, you know.
Bingo. So the right to bear arms was just, that was just understood. It was taken for granted.
Right.
We lived in a wilderness country, and people had to hunt and defend themselves from bears and wolves and panthers, as we called them in my neck of the woods back in the day.
And the right to own property, people don't realize in Europe when they left, the land was gone. The oligarchy, the kings, the nobles, they owned everything. There was no property to be owned. You couldn't buy it if you wanted. It was taken up. So when they came to this land, and there was thousands and thousands of acres, and you could be a private individual landowner, that was freedom. That was freedom.
And see, that's exactly the society they want to take us back to. They want to take us into that society. They want to take away our property rights. But yet, I guarantee you that the powers that be will still be at the top of their corporations. They will still live in their ginormous mansions. They will find the loopholes to enable that, to make sure that they do that and have it. That's why they really like the government of the CCP. That's why the DNC is in love with the CCP, is because they're able to do that. I mean, look in China today, they have billionaires and lots of them. And they have nice, fine houses. And the government there is making decisions to blow dikes in the flood, and without telling people, because if they tell people, their insurance will have to pay for it, and they don't want to have to do that and cover it with their insurance. So they don't care about the people there.
No.
And why in a true communist society would you need insurance in the first place? Why are people there starving? Why are people there worried about where they have a job? It all goes against all the tenets of communism. Now, I am not for communism, but that's not what they have either.
Right.
It's not at all what they have. I did a video on that. And I'm going to say, if you don't believe me, just look and examine how they operate.
Yeah, it's not communism in its purest form, that's for sure.
And look up the definitions of Nazism and communism, and you tell me what kind of society is the CCP. It's and yet people want to down our country and our government. And over there, let's see, that they've got the Muslims under basically living on a reservation in their own province, and they arrest them by the millions. And they're in gulags or labor camps. They impounded 13 tons of human hair that they apparently harvested from them. Here in the United States as wigs. They harvest organs. And there's also the Falun Gong religious group. Now, I've had people attack postings I've had. I said, well, that's just something from that extreme right group called the Falun Gong. Well, excuse me. They are a religious group. And if I was being persecuted by the government for my beliefs and my people were being killed and having their organs harvested, I think the Falun Gong is a bunch of pacifists,
Right.
To call them extreme right is hilarious to me.
Right.
Hilarious. I think that they you know, that they're a bunch of pacifists. You know, they're
Mhm.
you know, people that accuse them of being on the far right are off their rockers in my book. And I know some will attack me for it because I've been attacked for posting their articles that some of them originated from news organizations have. So if the
Sure.
only thing they're doing is going outside their society and publishing news outside their society, if they can't publish inside their society, and then you want to attack it, then you are part of the problem. You are part of the CCP in my book, and I
Right.
don't give
Right.
a flip. So you can color me as saying this Falun Gong does not do enough.
You know, Greg, and I have to add, I've had some thoughts that China is actually somewhat funding these riots. I don't think it's Soros alone by any means. I
Oh,
do think China
that's
could be
why.
involved
That's
too.
why they're consulate in Houston was shut down. And did you
Right.
know that they got there was a shipment of auto sears for AR-15s that would convert them to fully automatic that was intended to go to BLM from China that got intercepted.
There you go. There you go.
So yes,
And
they are in on it. You know, we talk about Russia meddling in our elections. With China is not just
right.
meddling in our elections; they're meddling in our country. They are
Right.
trying to instigate a civil war in this nation.
Absolutely. It's called
And that is
destabilization.
far worse. But
Yep.
but the DNC will say nothing about that. They will say
Right.
nothing about the CCP, who they love. The DNC and CCP are all kissy kissy,
Right.
if you ask me. And you know, Russia and Putin is no saint by any measure. But we ought to make deadgum peace with Russia. We ought to make a treaty with them.
100%. I agree.
Now there are other stuff going where somebody got poisoned. Yeah, he's not a nice guy, but none of them are. And we need to leverage. He could give us. I mean, he is more scared of China than he is us ultimately. But we have forced him into bed with them.
Right.
China's
Right.
going to take Vladivostok back. You know, they're eyeing Russian territory. And you know, the day if the day should ever come, the United States gets eliminated through an EMP, and we're not a player, China's going to turn on Russia, and Russia knows it. So Russians were far.
I was thinking about that today because you know I was thinking, you know, you get asked, you know, what is the greatest threat, or what are the most real threats right now? And you know, there's a lot of in which it's valid. I've talked about climate change and the you know, solar minimum and the challenges we face as farmers and growers, and they're legit. They're there. But guys, you know, the weather, you know, yes, we had these storms in Iowa and this, but that's not our greatest threat. Solar minimum isn't our greatest threat. It's these local insurrections and these destabilizations, and the broader root to that is the people that are supporting that, funding that.
Like I said, the very top echelons of our deep state know exactly who is involved in that.
Yes.
Know exactly where all that's going, and the fact that they allow it to happen says they're complicit in it. So they, you know, in legal terms, if you know something and you enable it, then you're part of it. So,
right.
And here's one other thing. So that's why I said these agencies sweep them all away. The you know, here's the thing. After it was discovered, after Auschwitz was found and it was discovered the atrocities that the Nazis had committed in World War II, after all that stuff was discovered, what we all said in the West was never again.
Never again.
Never again allow it to happen. Well, we absolutely have allowed it again, and we condone it. We absolutely condone it. We are actually supporting that. When the Uyghurs are imprisoned the way they are, when the Falun Gong are treated the way they are, when the jackboot is coming down on the necks of the people in Hong Kong, when they were guaranteed by treaty that they would be safe to 2047, when China is conducting drills and posturing as if they would invade Taiwan. I mean, if their system was so great in mainland China, if the CCP was so great and wonderful, the people in Hong Kong would be begging, oh, let us in, what are we waiting on? Taiwan would be saying, oh, gee, why do we got to spend zillions, you know, all this money for all these things to keep you from jumping on us? Hey, come in. We're one big happy family. Let's all party. But no, No, they don't want any part of that medicine. They know what it really is. So there's a
You know
big
what I
exception.
think would really, you know what I think would be really, this might start World War III, but if Taiwan wants to become a U.S. territory, I think it would be advantageous.
Okay, that's funny because there is a political party in Taiwan that actually is agitating to be the 51st state of the United States. Now, you know, that would make the CCP go totally ballistic.
Right,
There,
right.
there are people in Taiwan, and these are Chinese people of Taiwan.
Yep.
And they had parades, and on their floats, they got American flags. They got a guy wearing an Uncle Sam hat. They've got an office, and their office has American flags on it. It says
Yep.
51st state on it. They are there. Do you see that in our news media? No, you'll never see that in our news media,
Right.
but they exist. Now, should we take them as a 51st state? That would be, you know, kind of insane. But
Yeah, right. Like I said, it would probably cause World War III. Might not be a good idea for us here, but.
But on the other hand, we just let China run over them. We are really close to Taiwan. You know, I don't think our military would allow it to happen. I think we will get engaged. And I think if China really wants to do that, they'll make your dream come true first, that bad dream you had of an EMP attack. And maybe use a client state like, you know, Kim Jo-young and
Right.
Kim Yo-jong, excuse me, the parent leader now in North Korea. They might convince her to do something. They might prod her and, you know, just tell her, oh, if you don't do this, something's going to happen, or who knows what.
Yeah, you know, it's really a scary thought. You know, that's another thing I was thinking about today. You know, I was praying and meditating and just asking the Lord, you know, because like I said to you earlier, Greg, we can't stick our head in the sand, but we got to stay focused. We've got to keep, you know, we've got to keep prepping and praying and doing these things.
So let's talk about them. There's several things we can do. One is reach out to the other side. Reach out to the people that are wanting to burn our houses down. Try to talk to them. You know, but you know, you're not going to be able to do it through the internet because you can't communicate. It's got to be, if you know these people in person. If there's some of you that know these people, just get them aside and start talking to them. And it's going to take a little work. You know, you're not going to be able to just hit them over the head and convince them. Just kind of work them a little bit. Start working with them. Ask them questions and just ask them about their basic tenets, what's got them there, and just get them in a discourse and lead them into revelations. Lead them into seeing things from themselves that are different, because the reality of life is different from what they've been taught, and they truly believe what they're taught in the most part. There are some that don't. There are some who are just sociopaths and are taking advantage of this and they're riding their little gravy train of their own. But most of them are passionate. Most of them believe this. Most of them believe that way. And a lot of them live in communities like in the West Coast. This kind of thought pattern is so predominant, it might be hard to get them attuned to a different frequency. But it's not the salt of the earth, my friend. So one thing we can do, though, is, you know, I'm talking about people like yourself who are farmers, you're the salt of the earth. That's a funny term I always thought, because you don't want salt in there. But we know that's not what that meant. It meant you'll work and sweat salt, basically.
Right.
It's a terminology for people that are willing to work, roll up their arms and make things happen. But
that's right.
You don't want to put salt in the ground. That phrase always kind of tickled me. You know, I was like, why do they use that term? But it took me a while to come up with that. But, you know, so one thing that we can do is that we can try to reach out. We need to try to make peace. We need to wear the rose-colored glasses, and we need to have discernment if we have to engage at a higher level of defense, if you know what I mean, or beyond. We do need discernment. We don't need to just go spastic like they do. You know, we're better than that. We need to be better than that. That's how the only way we can lead is to be better than that. There may be a time, you know, you've got to defend your family, you got to defend your communities, and I'm all behind that. But use discernment. Just use discernment. You got to remember they are kids out there. And that's most unfortunate. But you know, that's probably one of the reasons they do it. Plus, they're easy to manipulate. The other thing we can do is pray.
That's right.
Meditate. Seriously, I do believe in the power of prayer. God tells us to pray.
Yep.
And if God is telling us to pray, he's really telling us this idea that we are co-creating our future. I do believe in the multiverse aspect. If the universe is not a multiverse, God's a tyrant. And God's not a tyrant. He gives us free will. That's why he tells us.
Absolutely right.
That
Yep.
is why he tells us free. He set this universe up. Assigning a sex to something bigger in this universe has kind of always been a funny concept. Maybe our language is lacking in descriptive words. But the greater creator is beyond all this stuff and has asked us and told us to pray, because that's the way the universe is set up. We have
That's
free
right.
will, but that means that reality can play down many different channels and outcomes. It's up to us to think, meditate, pray. All those things are effective in bringing us a better future. So you've got to think toward the future you want, see the outcome you want to see, pray and meditate toward that, for that, appeal to the greater creator. And these are all powerful, very powerful things to do. And anybody that doesn't believe that's powerful is barking up the wrong tree. Now, also so we hope for the best, but you've got to prepare for the worst at the same time.
Right.
You've got to get your food. You've got to get your means of defending yourself.
Yeah.
Water purification. You need to not be in the city, really and truly. And,
That's it.
the cities are going to be really bad zones when it's the fan. People are going to be starving to death, and the only thing to eat is long pork.
And Greg, what if the powers that be manipulate these people to take out the Amazons, the Walmarts, the grocers, right? The trucking companies that supply the food. There's dozens, like in Wisconsin, we have dozens of trucking companies, right? But if they took out a handful of those, they burned them up, which they're doing in the cities, transportation and delivery would stop. Transportation would stop because guess what? That they deliver fuel oil, they deliver gas. So
it's already happening, Stacy.
Right.
There's already companies, trucking companies, say they're not going into Portland or places like that.
And rightly so.
Yeah, they're at risk. Their trucks can be smashed. Their drivers can be attacked and killed. They've got to worry about their drivers, the property of what would be the truck, the value of, because the people be taking this stuff. So they're not going to send their places into anarchy, their trucks into anarchy. They're not going to do it, and they shouldn't do it. That's malfeasance. Malfeasance, and I would say some of the big agencies are complicit. And also are criminally negligent. Negligent. A governor who's not putting state troopers out to stop license plates that are marked over, covered over, are criminally negligent. Criminally negligent. They should not only be put out of office, they should be tried for treason.
Yep. I agree.
They have gone against their oath of office. They have violated their oath of office. They have violated the good trust that people put in them to protect their communities, the people, the properties, all because they want to let somebody have a tantrum. That is treason. Yeah. They should be tried.
I agree. I agree.
Prison.
Yeah, ours supposedly was going to send 250 National Guardsmen in, but his words, quote, he's sending them in to protect the protesters. And we have to stop this narrative. These are not protesters. They're insurrectionists. So he's sending the guard in to protect the insurrectionists.
If they were standing on the street and holding signs and singing songs, even if they had guns in their hands, that's all fine.
That's fine.
That's all fine. If they want to block something off, well, that may be okay. And it's not really great. But when they turn around and start burning things, attacking people.
Exactly.
Okay, if you throw a Molotov cocktail at somebody, you're threatening their life.
Right.
When you try to take a gun out of somebody's hand that has a gun, you're threatening life. Because that don't mean you're trying to make safety, because the potential, when somebody's armed and somebody's trying to move a gun, what is in their mind is that you could take that gun and use it on them. And we're seeing stuff like that happen already. When you hit somebody in the head with a skateboard, I don't care if it's a skateboard, that's like a hammer. You can kill someone that way.
Exactly.
You have leverage. Anything that gives you leverage is a blunt instrument. You can kill with any blunt instrument with leverage. I don't care if it's a skateboard. You can kill somebody. That is deadly force. So this idea, it's a skateboard. Yeah, you can kill somebody with a skateboard. And so there's big old wheels can really hit somebody hard and make a hole in the head. That is not funny. It is
Right.
Molotov cocktails are deadly. You throw
Yes.
somebody a burning liquid that can catch fire and burn them, even if it didn't kill them, to maim them for life, it may be worse offense than killing them. You imagine you've been bound up the rest of your life in a wheelchair as a paraplegic or burnt, severely burned. That's as bad as killing somebody, maybe worse. So
Right.
this whole narrative is bunkus.
Right. Right.
All right,
And people need to be prepared to stay out of those communities. You know, can you go? This has not been going on that long here in Wisconsin, but look at Seattle. It's months. Do you have food supplies, food storage to go months so that you don't have to enter into these war zones?
blockade them, cut them
Yep.
off. You know, they'll starve to death eventually.
Well, as I said, starve them out. It'll stop real quick. Starve them out. When the truckers stop, you know, it'll happen. Haven't heard much on that in Seattle because the truck drivers just now are stopping. The truck drivers in Minnesota and the Twin Cities are just now stopping. So
Yeah,
give it a couple weeks and we'll see.
Don't supply them. There are peaceful ways to end a lot of this stuff.
Yep.
But if they're coming around and burning their homes and going out to communities, the communities aren't going to stand for that, and they shouldn't have to. Not
Right.
It's, well, it's just property. Excuse me. This is people's livelihoods. It's their heritage.
Right.
It's multi-generational in many respects.
You know, back in the day, a home used to mean life or death.
Yeah. Well, they will be in the future if the grid goes down.
Exactly.
The garden can be life and death. You know, when you go out in Africa in a tribal place, they will kill you if you raid their garden.
Yes.
If you steal their vegetables, their kids starve to death. That is a life-threatening thing because your life depends on that garden. And we're going to be right back there real soon.
I agree, Greg.
You do need your home. You do need your assets. You do need your farm. That is your life. It is your life, your kids, your future. And somebody's depriving you of that. They're depriving you of your life.
Right.
Absolutely. It's not just property. It is your life.
It's your life.
It is your life. And this is something they need to understand, and they don't get that. They think, well, you got this because you had some privilege. You know, my parents were sharecroppers. They grew up sharecroppers. They didn't have nothing. They didn't get any advantage. They had nothing. And that's the typical story. So I don't know where all this narrative comes from. You know, the South, you know, everything in this country was built by slavery. Excuse me, we got burnt down. If you want antique furniture, you got to get it from the North because everything got burnt here. The Union troops burnt houses. They burnt property. They slaughtered livestock. In the South, there was a famine after the war. People were starving to death, black and white. Starving to death. I mean, the blacks and whites had to get together to cooperate just to not starve. It was a pitiful situation. They were, you know, they actually raised crops and did a lot of stuff. The troops did. So it was. That's why a lot of Southerners from areas that was, you know, anti-secession later identified more with the South than they did others because they got hit too. It didn't matter. It didn't matter whether your family was a slave owner or not. It didn't matter if you lived in the mountains where they weren't no slaves in North Georgia and North Alabama and some of these places in Appalachia where my family comes from. It didn't matter. They went through and burned everything. They didn't care. They didn't care.
Right.
So they, you know, you might have been in a community, it might have been pro-union. They still went through there and it's burnt stuff. There were some towns that were pro-union, they left intact, but a lot of places they didn't. So it's a case that, you know, there was no advantage left. And some people, well, nowadays, because of the corporations, you get it. No, go and check out what the 8A companies are. Go look at small minority business set-asides. Look at the advantages they have in contracting. And come to Huntsville, Alabama, and drive down the streets and show me a company where it's a white boy-owned company that succeeds. You will find none.
Right.
There's the old companies, the Bowens and whatever, but you will find all the young, new, smaller companies are minority-owned or woman-owned. Right. And the exceptions fail. So there is no such advantage. It's not there. It don't exist. That's the narrative you're taught in school, but it doesn't match the reality of what's happening in the world. And
I mean, I agree with it. Even up here, that, you know, the USDA has a hoop house program, so you can get a grant for a hoop house. Yeah. And you're told right by the USDA agents. I was told this personally, you know, when I was looking into it. Make sure you write down that you're a woman. And if you're married, you know, file single. Because if you're a single, if they look at it as a single woman, you know, woman farmer, you'll get granted the grant above anybody else who's male or married or, You know, so there's a lot of truth in what you're saying, you know, with the advantages of being female, you know, a minority. It's truth, you know.
And, you know, okay, so this was set up to give people a chance to get a leg up to supposedly to right wrongs of the past. And I'm not debating all that, but the fact of the matter is it's there. And so this whole notion of all this privilege stuff is, you know, people maybe forgot, didn't hear about the affirmative action and all these things like that. You know, and I'm not running it down. I'm just saying that the whole narrative of the privilege is
right.
It's
Right.
lacking. You know, hey, my managers at work are, you know, another race. I'm fine with it. I love them. I ain't got no problem. But, you know, that it's just the way it is, and there's nothing wrong with that. But, you know, where I'm at, I'm okay. But what I'm saying is this whole notion, the narrative of the advantage is a bit lacking. It's not to the point that you ought to be running around and committing two wrongs. I keep saying two wrongs is not right. That's the point of me saying this. That is the whole point of me saying this. Don't go around and burn down people's businesses, their lives, and destroy everything just because you're mad.
That's right.
This guy over there hit this guy. There's no reason to go burn this guy's house.
Right.
Under any circumstance, there is no justification for that.
That's, you know,
this guy shoots this guy, don't mean you attack the third guy.
Right. It's satanic. It's repaying evil for evil. And it's Satan's game.
Satanic. Exactly. Satanic. I agree. You know, that is just evil. Two wrongs never makes a right. And if you're doing wrong, you're wrong.
That's right.
That's not right. There's no way that's right. Okay. We have beat on this to the nth degree. And we're probably preaching to the choir because, you know, until we can break through their worldview, none of them are going to see what we're saying.
Right.
They're going to see the title of this video and they're going to go ballistic. They'll never listen to it. And if they listen, they will interpret it through their worldview and won't understand what we're saying for the most part. Some few might get it or might think for a minute, huh? And
even if one, it was well worth a couple hours.
There you go. Maybe one will. And let's hope that some can just stop and think a little bit and ask some questions, you know, say, hey, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And what, and, you know, this is being funded by the uber rich and they're promoting communism. Why is that? Think about it. They're being played. But, you know, that people don't, that's the last thing people want to hear is the idea they're being played. It makes them mad. So I don't want to make people mad. You know, they're already mad. That's not my intention. I would like to make people glad if I could, but I would definitely like to calm things down. But when people want to be offended, there's nothing to say. Everything you say is going to offend them.
That's right. Right. But I think these people need to get out, Greg, and they need to start gardening.
Bingo. Well, hey, you can support my channel by buying from True Leaf Market. Below my videos, True Leaf Market, you will not pay a cent more. If you go to my link, then you'd pay if you went straight, but it does help me in my channel. And exactly, because we don't know if Stacy's dream, and check my earlier video out with her, if that comes true, you're not going to buy anything because there won't be a grid and internet. There won't be postal delivery. Trucks won't be rolling. What you got is all you're going to have.
It's all you're going to have.
You better get it now. Go to True Leaf Market and buy the seeds, the heirloom seeds, so that you can garden and grow your own. And they have a wide selection. Greg, I live in the city. Well, you should get out of the city, but if you're really determined to stay there, at least grow microgreens. And you can grow them by the window. And they only need light in the last 3 days. And it don't really need that much. And in fact, so Greg, but you know what I do for seeds? Well, take a pot and put some plant seeds in it and stick it out on your windowsill to grow the seed plants. Or let a friend grow the seed plants for you if he's got a porch or a stoop or a top roof on his building that gets some sunlight in case you don't. There's ways to work it out, cooperate with people, and work these things out. But if you're in the city, oh my gosh.
Well, you know, Greg, if you're in the city, I have grown like 20-foot tomato plants that will produce enough tomatoes for a family of 4 for the whole year. With that canning, everything. There are solutions out there for that.
Right. Also, you're going to need prepping supplies, and you may not be able to get them for long. You need long-term food storage. You can go to my channel and go to prepwithgreg.com, and right now you can get $100 off. That's a deep discount. $100 off of a 4 weeks food supply. It's got 2,000 calories per meal. 2,000 calories is it per day? Yeah, it's per day. 2,000 per day, 3 meals per day, and you get breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You got some desserts and drinks. It's a wide variety of meals, and it comes in nice, easy to carry little buckets you can carry around and transport if you have to bug out.
Right.
Because you add water to it as you cook it, and later you have to hydrate, so you're not carrying all that water weight around. It's not like carrying all the big bulky cans.
And Greg, there's people bugging out of the cities. It's happening. People are fleeing Madison. They're fleeing Kenosha. My friend that we talked about at the beginning, her brother and his family are fleeing. They're bugging out. So having those ready-made meals in a bucket would make it, very easy to transfer. All
right. So for those watching, if you, Stacy, I've actually got a live session in about 19 minutes. So I'm going to have to post this, and that'd be too late to post this. So I'll be posting this tomorrow, because it won't perform if I post it that late. Like we'll be talking like 11 or 12.
Yeah.
Way too late to be posting the video like this. So I'll post this tomorrow, maybe tomorrow morning.
Sure.
And so that people can see it, so you can let your people know to watch for it then.
Will do.
But we're not. I am against hatred. I'm for love. We need to spread love. You need to love thy neighbor as thy love thyself. That's a commandment. And
that's right.
Follow it. But it's not. You don't have to bend over and let them run over you and your kids.
Right.
And destroy everything either. That's not to happen. But let's try to nip this in the bud as much as we can. And
that's right. That's right.
Try to cool the situation down as much as we can, and win over as many people as we can. Then there's hopefully less of them that want to do the things they're trying to do, and maybe their movement will just kind of fizzle out. But
right.
But the truth is, they've told us who they are. They told us what their heart is. We see what is the heart of some of the top people in the DNC. That includes AOC. She's always got the bare teeth. Looks like she wants to bite you all the time. Them crazy wide open eyes and bare teeth. Looks like a mad chihuahua, rabid chihuahua. So
true.
That now you know what's at their heart. It's flames. It's chaos. It's hatred.
Yep.
And one of the best questions I've ever heard was uttered by Tucker Carlson when he asked, "How can the party that hates America lead America?" You and I have a friend who's a Democrat who is a part of our Freedom Restoration Foundation.
Yep.
So there's good Democrats. There's good people in every party and all walks of life. But the heart and soul of the Democratic Party seems to be more and more that.
Right.
And so they're making a big deal out of the Republicans that are going to the DNC, and I don't get rid of them, let them go, because quite frankly, it's all about globalism. It's not about left, right, Republican, Democrat. It's globalism versus freedom.
Right. That's right.
I vote for freedom.
That's right.
Individualism. Those that are interested in freedom, I'll put a link below. You can email me at hal5space@aol.com and put freedom in the subject line. And I'm also promoting travel tribes right now, survival tribes. And I've got a volunteer lady here locally who's also part of our group, who is coordinating these emails and putting together the spreadsheets. We're about to really get active with this. So put tribe in the subject line if you want to join the tribes. Put freedom if you want to support the Freedom Restoration Foundation. If you want to do both, put both in the subject line. But that's how we're proceeding. And I really want to thank everyone for watching. Stacy, I want to thank you for your support. I consider you a patriot, a true patriot. You're really the salt of the earth. You're a hardworking lady. And I think anybody that wants to run over you is going to find they're going to have a real hard time. Because you're a very strong lady. You're strong in your convictions and everything. And I really admire that in you. And so I really wish you and your family all the best. Your
Thanks for the kind words, Greg. I appreciate you very much, too. I appreciate you a lot.
And so for those that are just watching this, I'm doing this prior to my Woden's Woken Wednesday session. And if you misunderstand the naming of my love of alliteration, you fail to hear me talking about the greater creator. So
yeah, that's right. That's right.
Pay heed to what I say and how I live. Okay.
That's right.
So, you can judge a tree by its fruit. That's how you tell what it is. Don't judge it by don't judge a book by the color of the wrapper. So,
right. Exactly.
In any event, Stacy, I really appreciate you. Thanks a lot.
You too, Greg.
I want to thank all the people who listened to this point. So that I know that you've listened this far, just say, hey, you know, I need to keep my phone in a wrapper more too. I don't know you listen this far, because this has been a long call. Anyway, Stacy, I really appreciate you. I think I'm going to have to probably demonetize this thing from the get-go, given the subject.
Probably.
Probably can just elect that. Of course, then I'll pay for that for several weeks, so they'll automatically demonetize everything I post until they say, yeah, that's what they'll do. Once if you declare something not to be monetized, they will pick on you for a week or two.
Right, right.
But okay, it's their platform. So anyway, everyone, thank you very much for watching. I'm going to end the video. We can chat for a second after that. No. Let's see. Hang on, I hit the wrong thing. Stop it.